The massive council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a monument to galactic cooperation that had stood for 3,000 years. Inside, representatives from 47 different species sat in their assigned seats, arranged in concentric circles around a central platform. The air hummed with translation devices, converting thousands of languages into coherent meaning. At the lowest tier, in the seats reserved for the newest members, Ambassador Giwan sat with her hands folded on the table before her. She had been sitting in this same position for 3 years. 3 long years of diplomatic talks that went nowhere. 3 years of presenting evidence, making compromises, and watching the council dismiss everything humanity offered. Today would be the final vote on the Krell dispute. Guan already knew how it would end. Captain Daeyun stood behind her, his military uniform crisp and perfect. He leaned down and whispered in her ear. The fleet commanders are getting impatient. Admiral Hunsu sent another message this morning. He wants permission to move his forces into position. Jiwan shook her head slightly. Not yet. Let's see how this plays out. Chancellor Vexter, a tall bird-like creature with golden feathers and 3 eyes, called the session to order. His voice echoed through the chamber with artificial authority. We gather today to render final judgment on the territorial dispute between the Krell sovereignty and the human newcomers. High Magistrate Krell, please present your final statement. The insectoid creature rose from his seat, his multiple legs clicking against the metal floor. His translator device made his chittering sound like smooth, confident words. The facts are simple. The Krell sovereignty has existed for 12,000 years. We have maps dating back 8,000 years showing our claim to the disputed systems. Humans arrived in our galaxy barely 200 years ago. They established colonies in our territory without permission. They built military outposts in systems we have patrolled for millennia. When we attempted to enforce our rightful claims, they attacked our ships. We demand justice. We demand the surrender of 5 colony worlds. We demand the restriction of human military forces to their home systems only. We demand reparations of 5 trillion galactic credits for the insult and injury they have caused. Polite applause rippled through the chamber. Several representatives nodded in agreement. Guan watched them all with calm eyes. Vexer turned his gaze to the human section. Ambassador Giwan, your response? Giwan stood slowly. She touched a control on her wrist, and holographic displays appeared above the central platform. We have presented this evidence before, but I will summarize once more. Our colony ships arrived in the disputed systems 147 years ago. At that time, detailed scans showed no settlements, no outposts, no satellites, and no military presence. We detected no signals of any kind. We waited the standard 30 years, as galactic law requires, broadcasting our intention to settle. No one responded. We established our colonies following every protocol. She changed the display, showing images of empty space. The Krell maps show claims, yes, but claims are not the same as presence. Galactic law is clear. Unclaimed and unoccupied territory may be settled by any species. When the Krell finally appeared, 70 years after our settlements were established, they demanded we leave. When we refused, they opened fire without warning. They destroyed 3 civilian transports. They killed 4,000 colonists who were not even soldiers. The chamber fell silent. Qiwan let the images of destroyed ships float in the air. Broken hulls, escape pods torn apart, bodies floating in space. High Magistrate Krell clicked his mandibles together. Ancient claims supersede new settlements. This is tradition. Tradition is not law, Juan said quietly. And murder is murder, regardless of tradition. Vexter raised one wing for silence. The council has reviewed all evidence. We must now vote. The question is simple. Do the Krell demands have merit under galactic law? Those in favor of the Krell position indicate now. Lights began appearing across the chamber. Blue lights, one after another, spreading like a wave. Juan counted them as they came. 10, 20, 30. The number climbed higher and higher. When the counting finished, 44 blue lights glowed in the darkness. Those opposed? Vexter called. 3 red lights appeared. 3 species out of 47 had sided with humanity. Vexther seemed almost pleased. The Council has spoken. The Krell demands are found to have merit. Humanity will comply with the stated terms within 90 standard days. This session is concluded. Ji Wan remained standing as the chamber began to empty. She looked up at Vexther, who was gathering his documents. "Chancellor, may I have a moment?" The bird-like alien looked down at her with something like pity in his 3 eyes. "Ambassador, I understand you are disappointed. But young species must learn their place in the galactic order. You are newcomers here. In time, you will understand how things work. Perhaps in another 1,000 years, humanity will have earned enough respect to we withdraw," Juan said simply. Vexther blinked all 3 eyes in sequence. "I'm sorry. Humanity withdraws from these proceedings. We withdraw from the Galactic Council. We withdraw from all treaties, all agreements, and all diplomatic relations. Effective immediately." The Chancellor's feathers ruffled. "You cannot be serious. You would abandon the only peace process available. You would rather have war than accept the Council's wisdom?" Juan picked up her documents and placed them in her case. Her movements were calm and precise. "We came here 3 years ago believing in diplomatic solutions. We presented evidence. We made compromises. We followed every rule. And in return, you have shown us that this council does not operate on law or justice. It operates on age and power. The oldest species make the rules. The strongest species enforce them. Everyone else submits or suffers." Captain Dayan stepped forward, his expression hard. "You just voted to steal our colonies and cripple our military. You did this because you believe we are weak, because you believe we have no choice but to accept whatever you decide." Vexther's voice took on a sharp edge. "If you leave this chamber, there will be no protection for you. The Krell will take what they want. Other species will see you as fair targets. You will be alone in a very dangerous galaxy." Giwan closed her case with a soft click. She looked around the chamber at all the species who had voted against humanity. Some looked smug. Others looked uncomfortable. A few looked worried. "We understand the risks, Chancellor. We understand them far better than you realize." She turned and walked toward the exit. Dayan followed her. Their footsteps echoed in the large chamber. Behind them, Vexther called out, "You will be back within a month, begging for terms. You have no idea what you are doing." Jiwan stopped at the door and looked back one last time. "No, Chancellor. You have no idea what you have done. But you will learn. Soon enough, you will all learn." The door sealed behind them with a hiss of pressurized air. Inside the chamber, High Magistrate Krell's laughter clicked and chittered through his translator. "Humans. Such emotional children. They will come crawling back within days." But Senator Vorash, a reptilian delegate who had voted in humanity's favor, sat in his seat and did not laugh. He had studied humans more carefully than most. He had read their history. He knew what they were capable of when pushed too far. He looked at the empty seats where the human delegation had sat and felt something he had not felt in his long life. He felt afraid. 3 weeks had passed since Ambassador Giwan walked out of the council chamber. In that time, the galaxy had become a very different place. Director Minji stood in the intelligence center deep beneath Earth's surface, watching data streams flow across dozens of screens. Each screen showed a different sector of space, a different communication channel, a different piece of the vast network humanity had built across the stars. One by one, she had been shutting them all down. "Final embassy evacuations complete," reported an officer at a nearby console. "All diplomatic staff have returned to human space. All consulates are closed. All cultural exchange programs are terminated." Minji nodded. "Good. What about the trade convoys?" "The last convoy cleared neutral space 40 minutes ago. Every human merchant ship is now inside our borders. And the communication networks. All civilian channels, 2 non-human species, have been severed. Military channels switched to protocol silence encryption. No one outside human space can intercept or decode our transmissions anymore." Minji allowed herself a small smile. "Then we are officially invisible." Begin Phase 2. Across the galaxy, in the Galactic Council headquarters, Chancellor Vexter was having a very bad day. He stood in his private office, staring at a communication screen that showed only static. "What do you mean you cannot reach them?" The technician's feathers drooped in distress. "Every human communication node has gone offline. Every embassy is empty. Every trade channel is closed. We have tried 50 different methods to contact Earth. Nothing works. It's like they have vanished completely." Vexter's 3 eyes narrowed. They have not vanished. They are simply being dramatic. Send a delegation to their nearest colony world. They will respond to a physical visit. But the delegation never made it. When the Council's diplomatic ship approached the human colony on Arcturus 7, it found the system's defenses online and active. Warning messages played on all channels in 30 different languages, all saying the same thing: human space is closed to non-human vessels. Turn back immediately, or you will be fired upon. The delegation turned back. Senator Vorash brought the news to the council floor the next day. His scales had lost their usual luster. He looked tired and worried. This is unprecedented. In 3,000 years of council history, no species has ever gone completely silent. Even during wars, communication channels remain open. But humanity has sealed itself off entirely. We know nothing about what they are doing. High Magistrate Krell clicked his mandibles in amusement. They are hiding because they are afraid. They know we will enforce the Council's judgment. Let them hide. It changes nothing. I am mobilizing the Sovereignty Fleet. In 30 days, we will take the disputed colonies by force. If the humans resist, we will crush them. If they do not resist, we will occupy their worlds. Either way, the matter will be resolved. Vorash shook his head. This is a mistake. We should attempt to reopen negotiations. Negotiations? Krell's voice dripped with contempt. They had 3 years to negotiate. They chose to walk away. Now they will face the consequences of their arrogance. The vote to authorize Krell military action passed 41-6. Vorash was one of the 6 opposed. Meanwhile, in human space, things were moving very quickly. Admiral Hunsu stood on the bridge of the battleship Indomitable, watching his fleet assemble. 200 warships floated in formation around him. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and dreadnoughts. The largest fleet humanity had ever gathered in one place. But even this massive force was only a fraction of what was really happening. Captain. Daeyun appeared on his communication screen. Admiral, the Council has authorized the Krell to move against our colonies. Their fleet will depart in 23 days. Expected, Hunsu said calmly. What about our special projects? The stealth ships are ready? Captain Sora reports that her wing can maintain complete electromagnetic silence for up to 6 weeks. The Krell won't detect them until it's too late. And Colonel Taiyang's teams? Already in position? They infiltrated 3 Krell command vessels last week using civilian cargo transports. The Krell security is laughably bad. Hunsu allowed himself a cold smile. Of course it is. They have been the dominant military power in their region for so long, they've forgotten how to actually fight. They've forgotten that wars are not won by having the biggest fleet. Wars are won by strategy, by adaptation, by knowing your enemy better than they know themselves. Daeyun's expression was serious. Sir, some of the colony governors are asking questions. They want to know if we're really going to let the Krell attack. The civilians are frightened. Tell the governors that evacuation ships are standing by. Any civilian who wants to leave can leave. But tell them also that we will not abandon the colonies. The Krell are coming, expecting an easy victory. They will not get one. On Earth, in the war planning room, dozens of strategists worked around the clock. They had spent 3 years studying every species in the Galactic Council. They knew their military doctrines, their weapons technology, their tactical preferences, and most importantly, their weaknesses. Director Minji briefed the planning committee. The Krell have 300 warships. By galactic standards, that's a massive force. But their ships are old designs. They rely on energy shields and plasma weapons. Their tactics have not changed in 2,000 years. They form battle lines and trade fire until one side's shields fail. It's predictable. It's slow. And it's vulnerable to weapons they have never encountered. The general raised his hand. What about their allies? Intelligence suggests several other species are watching this situation carefully. Let them watch, Minji said coldly. They think humans are primitive because our technology looks different from theirs. They use energy-based weapons, so they assume kinetic weapons are obsolete. They use FTL drives that are fast but create detectable signatures, so they assume our drives are inferior. They fight wars of attrition, so they assume that's the only way to fight. They are wrong on every count. And by the time they realize how wrong they are, it will be too late. The planning continued day and night. Humans had something the rest of the galaxy did not have. Recent experience with total war. Earth's history was full of terrible, brutal conflicts. Humanity had learned hard lessons about warfare over thousands of years. They knew how to wage war with efficiency and ruthlessness that peaceful species could not match. Back at the Galactic Council, Senator Vorish made one more attempt to warn his colleagues. He stood before the assembly and spoke with desperate urgency. Please listen to me. We are making a terrible error. Humans are not like other species. I have studied their history. They have fought thousands of wars on their home world alone. They understand conflict in ways we do not. They are quiet right now, yes, but that does not mean they are weak. It means they are preparing. Vexthor waved a dismissive wing. Senator Vorash, your concern is noted, but unnecessary. The humans are one species with limited territory and limited resources. They face the combined judgment of this council. If they choose violence, they will lose. It is that simple. But Vorash knew it was not simple at all. He returned to his quarters and sent an encrypted message to his home world. Remain neutral in the coming conflict. Do not join any coalition against humanity. This is not advice. This is survival. Colonel Tai Yang sat in the cargo hold of a Krell command ship hidden among supply crates. He had been there for 6 days. Around him, 9 other human Special Forces operatives waited in silence. They had food for 3 weeks, water for 4, and enough equipment to disable the ship's entire command. Structure in under 5 minutes when the time came. Tai Yang checked his chronometer. 18 days until the Krell fleet departed. 18 days until the galaxy learned what humans could do. When they stopped talking and started fighting, he smiled in the darkness. The Krell had no idea they were already infiltrated. They had no idea what was coming. And by the time they figured it out, humanity would have already won. The Krell fleet emerged from FTL travel in perfect formation. 300 warships, arranged in traditional battle lines, their shields glowing with barely contained power. High Magistrate Krell stood on the bridge of his flagship, all his eyes focused on the holographic display before him. The human colony world of New Horizon filled the center of the screen. Status report, he commanded. His tactical officer checked the sensors. The colony appears to be evacuating Magistrate. We detect multiple civilian transports leaving the planet. No military vessels in range. No defense platforms online. No missile batteries responding to our presence. Krell's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. As expected, they abandoned their colonies without a fight. Humanity reveals its true nature. They are cowards who hide behind words but run when faced with real power. Around the bridge, other Krell officers chittered in agreement. This was going to be the easiest conquest in their history. They had brought 300 ships to claim 5 worlds, and it seemed they would not even need to fire a shot. All ships begin orbital insertion, Krell ordered. Prepare landing forces. We will occupy the colony within the hour. But as the fleet moved into orbit, something felt wrong. The tactical officer's antennae twitched with confusion. Magistrate, I am detecting unusual readings. Gravitational fluctuations across multiple vectors, but sensors show nothing there. Equipment malfunction, Krell said dismissively. Focus on the landing operations. The tactical officer was about to respond when every alarm on the bridge started screaming at once. Space itself seemed to tear open around the Krell fleet. 40 sleek human destroyers dropped their stealth systems simultaneously, appearing from nowhere like ghosts becoming solid. They had been waiting in complete silence, their reactors running cold, their systems completely dark. For 6 weeks, Captain Sora's stealth wing had been positioned around the colony, invisible and patient. All ships, weapons free, Sora commanded from her destroyer's bridge. Execute attack pattern Delta 7. What happened next lasted only 8 minutes. But those 8 minutes would be studied in military academies for generations. The human ships did not use plasma weapons or energy beams. They used railguns, massive magnetic accelerators that fired solid projectiles at a significant percentage of light speed. The projectiles were too fast for the Krell sensors to track properly. They were too dense for shields designed to stop energy weapons. They simply punched through shield systems and holes like they were paper. The first salvo destroyed 60 Krell ships in 30 seconds. Entire warships exploded in silent fury as railgun slugs tore through their reactor cores. The second salvo came before the Krell could even begin to respond. Taking out another 40 ships, High Magistrate Krell watched his fleet die around him in complete shock. Return fire. All ships return fire. But the Krell ships were designed for slow, methodical warfare. Their plasma cannons had to charge. Their targeting systems needed time to lock on. Their tactics required maintaining formation and trading fire in organized patterns. The humans gave them none of these things. Captain Sora's wing moved like a school of predators, never staying in one position for more than a few seconds. They fired, relocated, fired again. Missiles launched from the human ships, but these were not normal missiles. They were AI-guided swarms that broke into dozens of smaller warheads, each one independently tracking a different target. The Krell point defense systems could not handle the sheer volume of incoming fire. Then came the EMP weapons. Directed electromagnetic pulses that shut down ship systems without destroying the vessels themselves. 30 Krell warships went dark simultaneously, floating dead in space with their crews still alive, but completely helpless, inside one of those darkened ships. Colonel Taeyang and his team made their move. They emerged from the cargo hold wearing powered armor that made them look like walking tanks. They moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency, stunning the crew with non-lethal weapons and taking control of the bridge. In under 4 minutes, Taeyang sat in the captain's chair and activated the communication system. This is Colonel Taeyang of the Human Special Forces to all Krell vessels. Your command structure has been compromised. We have control of 18 of your ships. We have infiltration teams on 27 more. Surrender now, or we will disable your entire fleet. On his flagship, High Magistrate Krell could barely believe what he was hearing. Humans inside his ships. Impossible. But as he watched, more and more of his vessels went silent. Some reported intruders. Others simply stopped responding. Retreat. Krell finally ordered. All ships that can move retreat immediately. The remains of his fleet, less than 90 ships out of the original 300, turned and fled. They activated their FTL drives in desperate panic, jumping to random coordinates just to escape. Behind them, the human destroyers did not pursue. They simply held position, guarding the colony they had defended. The battle was over. The mighty Krell sovereignty, which had dominated its region of space for 12,000 years, had lost 70% of its fleet in 8 minutes. Captain Sora opened a channel to all galactic frequencies. Her voice was cold and clear. This is Captain Sora of the Human Defense Forces. The colonies are ours. We claimed them legally. We settled them peacefully. We will defend them absolutely. Any further aggression against human territory will be met with total war. This is your only warning. The message spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every species in the Galactic Council had heard about the disaster. Emergency sessions were called. Intelligence reports were demanded. Military analysts scrambled to understand what had happened. Chancellor Vexler stood before the council in shock. How is this possible? Krell had numerical superiority. They had the larger fleet. They had the defensive advantage. Senator Voresh, who had tried to warn them all, spoke quietly. They had numbers. Yes, but humans had something more important. They had surprise. They had technology we did not understand, and they had the will to use overwhelming force without hesitation. Admiral Hunso watched the battle reports from his command center and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The stealth wing had performed perfectly. The railguns had proven their worth. The infiltration teams had exceeded expectations. But this was only the beginning. Send the message to all fleet commanders, he ordered. Prepare for Phase 2. The Krell will not accept this defeat quietly. They will call for allies. They will form a coalition. And when they do, we will be ready. Director Mingy reviewed intelligence reports showing that for other species were already in talks with the Krell. They were organizing a response. They were gathering their fleets. They believed that if they combined their forces, they could overwhelm humanity through sheer numbers. Minji felt no fear at this news. Instead, she felt something like pity. These species had lived in peace for so long, they had forgotten what real war looked like. They thought war was about having the biggest army. They thought war was about trading fire until one side gave up. They did not understand that war was about breaking your enemy's will to fight. It was about making them too afraid to continue. Humanity understood this. Humanity had learned it through centuries of brutal conflict. And now, the galaxy was about to receive a lesson in what happened when you forced a warrior species to abandon peace. Hi, Magistrate Krell limped back to his home world with the survivors of his fleet. He was humiliated. He was furious. And he was terrified. For the first time in his long life, he had faced an enemy that was simply better than him. Better trained. Better equipped. Better prepared. But his pride would not let him accept defeat. He sent messages to every allied species. Humanity must be stopped. They are too dangerous to be allowed to exist as an independent power. We must combine our forces and crush them before they grow stronger. Join me, and we will teach these humans their place, one by one. The responses came back, yes, we will join you. Yes, we will send our fleets. Yes, together we will defeat them. They were making the worst mistake of their lives. But they did not know it yet. They still thought they were fighting against a weak young species that had gotten lucky. They did not realize they were fighting against something the galaxy had never seen before. They were fighting against humanity united, prepared, and absolutely done with being pushed around. The coalition assembled at the edge of Krell space was the largest military force the galaxy had seen in 3 centuries. 847 warships from 4 different species, all united in their determination to punish humanity for its defiance. At the center of this massive fleet stood the flagship Eternal Dominance. Commanded by War Master Throck of the Ursan Hegemony, Throck was a legend in galactic military circles. The bear-like warrior stood 3 meters tall, covered in thick fur and old battle scars. He had fought in 17 major conflicts over 40 years and had never lost a single battle. Species across the galaxy spoke his name with respect and fear. When Throck committed to a war, that war was already won. He stood on his bridge now, looking at the holographic display showing the coalition fleet spread out before him. This is impressive. 800 ships, all following my command. The humans have 40 colonies. We will strike 5 simultaneously. They cannot defend everything at once. They will scatter their forces, and we will destroy them piece by piece. High Magistrate Krell stood beside him, his mandibles clicking nervously. War Master, I must warn you. The humans fight differently than expected. Their technology is... I have reviewed your battle reports, Throck interrupted. You lost because you were unprepared and overconfident. You allowed them to position stealth ships around your target. You walked into an ambush. I do not make such mistakes. We will advance carefully. We will maintain formation. We will use our numerical advantage properly. The humans are clever, yes, but cleverness cannot overcome raw power when properly applied. The coalition fleet moved out, splitting into 5 battle groups. Each group consisted of over 150 warships, more than enough to overwhelm any defense. They jumped to FTL travel, confident in their victory. on the human colony world of Redemption's Edge. General Hejin watched the evacuation proceedings. Thousands of civilians loaded onto transport ships heading to safer systems. But not everyone was leaving. General Hejin had 15,000 soldiers who had volunteered to stay behind. They knew what was coming. They knew the odds. They stayed anyway. General Long-Range Sensors detect the Coalition fleet, reported her tactical officer. They will arrive in 6 hours. Good, Hejin said calmly. That gives us time to finish preparations. Order all troops to their positions. Activate the defense grid. And someone get me a cup of coffee. It's going to be a long day. When the Coalition fleet arrived at Redemption's Edge, they found what appeared to be a lightly defended world. A few orbital platforms. Some ground-based missile batteries. A token force that would be swept aside easily. War Master Throck ordered the landing operation to begin. 3,000 Coalition troops descended to the surface in armored dropships. They landed outside the main colony city, formed up in standard battle formations, and began their advance. Everything went according to plan for exactly 12 minutes. Then the ground exploded. Beneath them, the humans had buried thousands of mines across the approach routes. But these were not simple explosive mines. These were smart mines that waited for the perfect moment, coordinated with each other, that created devastating chain reactions. 200 Coalition soldiers died in the first 30 seconds. The survivors tried to advance, found themselves facing weapons they had never encountered. Human soldiers appeared wearing powered armor that made them move faster and hit harder than should be possible. They carried weapons that fired solid projectiles at hypersonic speeds, weapons that created plasma jets capable of melting through vehicle armor, weapons that launched micromissiles that tracked targets with impossible accuracy. But the real nightmare was the coordination. The human soldiers did not fight as individuals. They fought as a single organism, sharing tactical data in real time, calling in orbital strikes with perfect precision, using drones and automated systems to create a battlefield awareness that the Coalition forces could not match. General Hejin watched the battle from her command center, directing her forces with calm efficiency. 3rd Battalion, fall back to Checkpoint 7. Lure them into the kill zone. Air support, I want strikes on coordinates Delta 4 through Delta 9. Artillery, begin firing Solution 12. The Coalition forces pushed forward, taking horrific casualties but slowly advancing through sheer numbers. They reached the city outskirts after 4 hours of brutal combat. They had lost 1,200 soldiers. The humans had lost 90. War Master Throck watched the ground battle from orbit with growing frustration. His forces should have taken the city in less than an hour. Instead, they were bleeding to death against an enemy that seemed to anticipate every move. Commit the reserves. All ground forces advance. We will overwhelm them with numbers. But Admiral Hunsu had been waiting for exactly this moment. The human fleet had not engaged the Coalition ships directly. Instead, they had been moving into position, using their superior FTL drives to hit targets the Coalition never expected. While Throck focused on the colony, human strike forces appeared at 3 Coalition homeworlds simultaneously. The attacks were surgical and terrifying. Human ships did not try to conquer these worlds. They destroyed military installations, disabled defense platforms, and then broadcast a simple message before leaving. Your military attacked our colonies. We have now attacked yours. If you continue this war, we will return. Next time, we will not be so gentle. The message was clear. The Coalition had brought 800 ships to fight for colonies. Humanity had proven they could strike anywhere, anytime, against targets that had no defenses. The strategic calculus suddenly changed. Back at Redemption's Edge, the Coalition forces finally broke through to the city center, but they found only automated defenses. The human forces had withdrawn to prepared positions in the surrounding hills. General Hejin's troops had never intended to hold the city. They had intended to bleed the Coalition army, to make them pay for every meter. To show them that taking human territory would cost more than it was worth, War Master Throck received reports of the attacks on Coalition homeworlds and felt something he had not felt in 40 years of warfare. He felt doubt. His numerical advantage meant nothing if the humans could strike anywhere while his fleet was concentrated here. His superior firepower meant nothing if the humans refused to engage his ships directly. His experience meant nothing because he had never fought an enemy like this. "Pull back," he ordered. "Withdraw ground forces. Reform the fleet." But as his ships began to regroup, they found themselves under attack from multiple directions. Human carriers had launched hundreds of small fighters that swarmed the coalition vessels like angry insects. Each fighter carried missiles that could overwhelm point defense systems. The coalition ships had to choose between defending against the fighters or protecting against long-range strikes from human capital ships. Captain Sora's stealth wing appeared again, this time targeting coalition command vessels. They fired EMP weapons that disabled ships without destroying them, creating chaos in the coalition formation. War Master Throk's own flagship lost power for 7 minutes. 7 terrifying minutes where he sat in darkness wondering if he was about to die. When power was restored, Throk found that Colonel Taiyang was standing on his bridge, surrounded by human special forces operators in powered armor. They had boarded the flagship during the blackout, moved through the corridors like ghosts, and secured the command center before Throk's security forces even knew they were there. Taiyang removed his helmet, revealing a young human face with cold, professional eyes. "War Master Throk, we are not here to kill you. We are here to deliver a message. You are defeated. Your coalition has lost 30% of its fleet. Your homeworlds are vulnerable. Your armies are trapped on worlds they cannot hold. Surrender now, or we will continue this war until you have nothing left to fight with." Throk looked at the human soldier who had accomplished what no enemy had ever done before. He had boarded Throk's flagship and taken control. The great War Master, undefeated in 40 years, had been beaten by a species barely 200 years old. "Why do you not kill me?" Throk asked. "I would have killed you without hesitation." Taiyang's expression did not change. "Because we are not monsters. We do not want to conquer you. We do not want to destroy you. We want you to leave us alone. We wanted peace. You gave us war. Now we are giving you a choice. Peace or annihilation." The coalition forces surrendered 3 hours later. They had lost over 400 ships. They had lost thousands of soldiers. They had lost their confidence, their pride, and their belief in their own superiority. They had learned what Senator Vorish had tried to tell the Council months ago. Humanity was not like other species. When pushed to war, they did not fight fair. They fought to win, using every advantage, every trick, every ruthless tactic that would bring victory. They fought like a species that had learned warfare through millennia of bitter experience. They fought like they had something to prove, and they had proven it. 6 months after the war began, Ambassador Giwan walked through the corridors of the Galactic Council chamber once more. But everything was different now. The guards did not stop her. The other delegates did not ignore her. Instead, they watched her pass with something between fear and respect in their eyes, Chancellor. Vexter waited for her in what used to be his private office. It was not his office anymore. Nothing belonged to the old council anymore. The war had changed everything, and Vexter knew it. His golden feathers looked dull now. His 3 eyes held no arrogance, only exhaustion and resignation. "Ambassador Giwan," he said quietly. "Thank you for coming." Giwan sat down without being invited. Captain Dayon stood behind her, his expression neutral. "You asked for this meeting, Chancellor? I assume you are ready to discuss terms." "Terms?" Vexter repeated the word, like it hurt. "Yes, terms. The Council is prepared to negotiate a settlement to this conflict." "There is no conflict," Giwan said coldly. "There was a conflict. It is over. You lost. 14 species have formally surrendered to humanity. The Krell sovereignty no longer exists as an independent state. Their territory is now under human administration. The coalition fleet has been disbanded. This is not a negotiation. This is you accepting reality." Vexter's feathers ruffled in distress. "We made mistakes. We underestimated your capabilities. We treated you unfairly. We acknowledge all of this. But surely there can be a path forward that does not involve complete submission? We are still the Galactic Council. We still represent hundreds of species and thousands of worlds. You represent whoever we allow you to represent, Daeun said bluntly. Your military power is broken. Your political authority is gone. The only question now is whether you adapt to the new reality or become irrelevant. There was a knock at the door. Senator Voresh entered, looking older than he had 6 months ago. The reptilian diplomat had spent the war trying to broker peace, trying to convince his fellow council members to surrender before more lives were lost. Some had listened. Most had not. Ambassador G1 Voresh said with genuine respect in his voice, I want to apologize. I tried to warn the Council about humanity's potential. I tried to prevent this war. I failed. Kiwan's expression softened slightly. You were one of 3 who voted in our favor. We remember that, Senator. We remember who our friends were when we had few friends to count. What happens now? Voresh asked. G1 stood and walked to the window overlooking the council chamber below. She could see delegates from dozens of species gathering, all of them waiting to hear humanity's terms. Now we rebuild. But we rebuild correctly this time. The old council was based on age and tradition. The oldest species made the rules. The younger species obeyed. That system created the very conflict we just fought. It will not continue. She turned back to face them. Humanity is taking a permanent seat on the council leadership. We have veto power over any major decision. All territorial disputes will be resolved by an independent court, not by council vote. Military forces from multiple species will be integrated under a unified command structure with human oversight. And most importantly, the principle that founded this council will actually be enforced. No species, regardless of age or power, has the right to dominate another. Vexthor absorbed this in silence. Everything he had built, everything his species had controlled for thousands of years, was being taken away. But he had no power to resist. The human fleet orbiting this very station was proof of that. And if we refuse these terms, then you become irrelevant, Giwan said simply. The species who fought against us and then surrendered have already agreed to these terms. They understand the new reality. If you cannot accept it, humanity will simply work with those who can. The council will continue with or without you. Before Vexthor could respond, the door opened again. This time, Prime Minister Youngsik appeared via holographic projection. The leader of Earth's government looked exactly like what he was, a man who had just won a war he never wanted to fight. Chancellor Vexthor, Senator Voresh, Ambassador G1, Youngsik greeted them all. I wanted to address you directly about humanity's intentions going forward. We did not want this war. We came to your council in good faith, seeking peaceful coexistence. We were dismissed, insulted, and attacked. We responded with overwhelming force, not because we are aggressive, but because we refuse to be victims. He paused, letting his words sink in. The question you all asked yourselves was whether humanity deserved a place at the galactic table. You decided, we did not. So we built our own table. Now you are asking if you can sit at it. The answer is yes, but only if you understand what that means. It means treating all species as equals. It means resolving disputes through law, not through age or strength. It means accepting that humanity will never again be pushed around. Vexthor finally spoke, his voice tired. What about reparations? The council voted that humans would pay the Krell. Now you are demanding we pay you. Juan smiled without humor. Yes, you will pay for the cost of a war you forced us to fight. You will pay for the colonies you tried to steal. You will pay for the 4,000 civilians the Krell murdered. The amount is 5 trillion galactic credits, the exact sum the Krell demanded from us. We will use those funds to rebuild what was destroyed and to strengthen our defenses so this never happens again. This is humiliation, Vexthor said quietly. No, G1 corrected. Humiliation is what you tried to do to us. This is justice. This is consequence. This is learning that actions have meaning. Over the next week, the new galactic order took shape. The council reconvened with humanity holding a leadership position. Ambassador G1 sat at the head of the council table now, where Vexthor used to sit. The old chancellor was moved to a lower tier, a symbolic but powerful message about how things had changed. Admiral Yunsu oversaw the creation of the Galactic Defense Force, a unified military command that combined human and alien forces. Many species were initially resistant to serving under human command, but they had no choice. Their own military forces had been decimated in the war. They needed humanity's protection now more than they wanted to admit. Captain Sora's stealth wing became the core of a new rapid response fleet that could reach any system in crisis within hours. War Master Throck, stripped of his command but respected for his eventual wisdom in surrendering, was given an advisory position. He spent his time studying human military doctrine. Trying to understand how he had been defeated so thoroughly, Colonel Taeyong established training programs to teach other species. Special forces, the tactics and techniques humanity had perfected. Many were shocked by how different human warfare was from what they knew. The emphasis on speed, deception, and overwhelming violence was foreign to species that had fought wars of attrition for millennia. Director Mingi worked with her counterparts from other species to build a new intelligence network. Information sharing became mandatory. Threats were identified early. And most importantly, diplomatic channels remained open even when tensions rose. The war had taught everyone that communication was better than conflict. But perhaps the most important change was in how species viewed each other. The old hierarchy based on age was gone. In its place was a system based on contribution and capability. Young species were no longer dismissed. Old species no longer dominated simply because they were old. Everyone had to prove their worth through actions, not through tradition. Senator Vorash spoke at the first session of the new council. We have learned a painful lesson. We learned that peace is not about submission. Peace is about mutual respect between equals. Humanity forced us to learn this lesson through war, but it is a lesson we should have learned on our own. We treated them as inferiors because they were young. We forgot that wisdom is not measured in years alone. Sometimes the youngest voice in the room is the wisest. Giwan listened to his speech and felt some of her anger fade. The war had been necessary, but it had not been pleasant. Thousands had died on both sides. Entire fleets had been destroyed. Worlds had been scarred. She had not wanted any of it. She had wanted what she asked for in the beginning: simple fairness. After the session, Captain Daeyoon joined her on the observation deck. They looked out at the stars together, at the vast expanse of space that was now shared by dozens of species, trying to find a new way forward. Do you think it will last? Daeyeon asked. This new peace? Giwan considered the question carefully. I think it has a better chance than the old system. We proved that we cannot be bullied. We proved that we will defend ourselves absolutely. But we also proved that we can be fair rulers. We did not conquer the galaxy when we had the chance. We did not take revenge beyond what was necessary. We gave them terms they could accept. Some species still resent us, Daeyeon observed. Of course they do. We took away their privilege. We forced them to see themselves as equals rather than superiors. That is never comfortable. But resentment is better than war. And over time, as they see that we are serious about fairness, some of that resentment will fade. Captain Sora joined them on the deck, her mission reports complete. The fleet is requesting orders, Ambassador. Where should we patrol next? Everywhere, Guan said with a slight smile. We need to be visible.